Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into something pretty wild, the world of dark psychology. We're actually dissecting a guide that claims it can get rid of your partner's irritability. But here's the kicker. It's not about talking things out. Nope. It's about using a whole bunch of covert, manipulative strategies.
Wow. Okay, this quote from the source, it really just lays it all out there, doesn't it? Right off the bat, we're being told this has nothing to do with healthy open communication. It's all about framing these tactics as some kind of secret weapon, these hidden, powerful techniques designed for one thing, getting a specific result.
So, to really wrap our heads around this, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the basic idea, the main premise. Then, we'll dive into the tactics for conditioning behavior and manipulating emotions. After that, we'll see how they suggest weaponizing communication itself. And finally, we'll piece it all together to see what the real end goal is here.
All right, let's jump right in. First up, the foundation, the big promise of all this. What is this dark psychology advice actually offering? Well, when you strip everything else away, it really just boils down to one thing, an offer of control. But it's all dressed up as a solution for your relationship problems.
Yeah, the source is surprisingly upfront about it. This has zero to do with mutual understanding or teamwork. It's a one-sided playbook, plain and simple. The goal is to secretly change how your partner behaves to, and these are their words, regain control. So right there, conflict isn't seen as something you solve together. It's a battle, and this is your guide to winning it.
Okay, so the first batch of tactics we're going to look at is all about shaping behavior. And what's really fascinating, and kind of creepy honestly, is how they take real legitimate psychological principles and just twist them. They're warped to serve a totally manipulative goal.
So the main concept they're borrowing from is something called operant conditioning. It's a classic from Psychology 101. And the idea is super simple, right? You reward the behavior you like and you punish the behavior you don't like. That's it.
And here is exactly how they say to use that in your relationship. The formula couldn't be clearer. When your partner is calm, you shower them with affection. But the second they show any irritability, you punish them with the silent treatment. The idea is to literally train your partner on a subconscious level, make them crave that reward and do anything to avoid the punishment. But it doesn't stop there. The source takes it a step further with something called love bombing intervals. It's basically a cycle of emotional whiplash. You withdraw, they get anxious, and then you overwhelm them with affection. What does that do? It makes that reward state feel so good, so much better than the alternative, that you're essentially programming them to avoid any kind of conflict, no matter what. Okay, so if that last part was about controlling what your partner does, this next bit is about controlling what they think. Yeah, these tactics are specifically designed to get inside someone's head and literally mess with their perception of reality. The source has a name for this one, gaslighting light. So instead of actually talking about a problem your partner brings up, you just question their memory. You say things like, "Are you sure that's what happened?" Or you question their emotions. "You seem really on edge lately." The whole point is to deflect, to get off topic and make them start doubting themselves. Another tool in the box? Good old-fashioned guilt tripping. The strategy is basically to flip the script. You shift that whole emotional burden onto them, making them feel responsible for the pain that their behavior is supposedly causing you. And this is where it gets really, really telling. The source tries to justify this with some pseudo-scientific jargon. They claim that guilt activates the empathy centers in the brain. You see what they're doing? They're dressing up a pretty nasty manipulative act to sound like some clever psychological de-escalation technique that makes your partner's anger turn inward on themselves. They also get into some more indirect methods, like using reverse psychology, right? You try to make your partner think that being calm was their idea all along. Or they talk about negging, those little backhanded compliments. The idea is to create just enough insecurity that your partner starts to second-guess themselves and police their own behavior. Okay, so we've covered tactics for behavior and for emotions. The last piece of the puzzle here is weaponizing communication itself. This is where you turn everything, both what you say and what you don't say, into a tool for control. And they really present two sides of the same coin. You've got the active approach, which they call the mirror effect. That's where you literally mimic your partner's irritable tone and body language, basically to hold a mirror up to them. And then you have the passive approach, the classic silent treatment. Just withdraw completely, create a vacuum of anxiety, and wait for them to crack.
Now, this part is, it's maybe the most insidious of all. The source literally explains how to hijack tools from actual legitimate therapy and twist them for your own manipulative purposes. For instance, using a deep, therapy-style question, not to understand but just to stop an argument in its tracks and take control, or even suggesting journal prompts that are designed to lead your partner to the exact conclusion you want them to have.
All right, we've gone through all these different strategies: behavioral, emotional, communicative. So what's the common thread? What's the one thing that ties all of this together? What's the real end goal?
Because when you lay it all out, you see it's not just a couple of cheap tricks. The source presents a full arsenal. We're talking 10 different methods here. It's a whole system covering everything from behavioral conditioning all the way to straight-up emotional manipulation.
And that is the number one takeaway here. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which specific tactic you're looking at. The objective never changes. It's always about gaining influence and exerting control over your partner's emotions and their actions. And it's all done in the name of achieving what the source calls peace.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty critical question to think about, right? Where do you draw the line? What's the difference between the healthy influence we all have on each other in a relationship and this kind of deliberate, hidden manipulation? It's that blurry line, that ambiguity that makes this whole world of dark psychology so fascinating to some people and, frankly, so concerning to others.